Hello everyone and welcome back to another deck guide, this time featuring Gold Pride Punk for Genesis. This is just a Genesis build, so it's going to be a quick guide, not a full in-depth guide, so if you want to see a full card by card because you're not familiar with what this deck is trying to do, I have linked a full guide in the description of an older advanced build. You can go watch that to get that card by card, then come back here and steal this list for Genesis. So Punk in general looks very, very different in this format because of the lack of emergency teleport. E-Tele is both our best starter and one of our best extenders, so losing that super versatile card really sucks because it is 35 points and the Punk engine is 45 points itself, and we really want to be playing Pep. So if we played one copy of E-Tele, then we are at 100 with no non-engine, and that kind of sucks because this is a deck that really wants to be drawing hand traps as it's doing its combo because we draw 3 to 4 cards throughout the course of that combo. So instead of that, I've decided to drastically increase the size of the Punk engine itself. You see, Shirakusai and Rising Scale both become starters if you have another Punk monster, or in the case of Scale, a Punk card, in hand, because Shirakusai can fuse, then diffuse out of Rising Carp into Wagon and Deer Note, and that's full combo. Likewise, Rising Scale can banish any Punk card, even if you just have Extreme Session, which, God, I really hate doing. But you can do that, then summon out Shirakusai, fuse in a Rising Carp with the Shirakusai and the Rising Scale, diffuse, you're good to go. So, like, a bigger engine just makes the deck a lot more consistent, which makes up for the fact that we only have 9 1-card starters without E-Tele. We now have 6 2-card starters as well. So, you know, obviously they're worse, but it makes up the difference reasonably. The only other difference to the core engine I'm playing is 2 Deer Notes. I will sometimes play 2 Deer Notes in an advanced build, because it does have an extension effect, so it's not awful to draw. And having 2 is kind of nice in a longer game, like the ones that Genesis goes into, because it's the only in-archetype 5, so it's the only in-archetype way to make a Synchro 8. So having another one to summon as follow-up, because it's not that easy to get back out of the graveyard, is not a bad place to be. Other than that, the biggest other change is I'm playing 2 copies of Prototype Psychic Blaster. You could play 1, you could play 3. I felt like 2, I don't know, I kind of want 3, but I also don't want to go over 40. And you can't really cut the Gold Prides any more than this. So I would like 3, I don't want to go over 40, so we're playing 2. This card, I wasn't super hyped on when it first came out, but it's grown on me. You can discard this card to special summon a low-level Psychic from hand or banishment, and then if it's in grave, you can pay 1,000, banish another Psychic from grave to special summon it, but it vanishes when it leaves the field. So this is a level 6 that turns the fact that we have a lot of normal summon monsters into not so much of a weakness, because you can pitch this, summon Zeaman, and then if Zeaman is stopped, you still have your normal summon for like a Shirakusai or something, which is really cool. It also helps us make 9s, which the deck can do already, but it just makes it a lot easier to make something like Psychic Blaster, which can then summon out either the Prototype Psychic Blaster that banishes itself when it leaves, or the thing that you banished off of it. So then you have the materials to go into Wolf Riot really easily. So we've got 2 level 9s that are both quite powerful, and those are mostly facilitated off the back of Psychic Blaster. Then I'm spending our exactly 35 points on 7 Ghost Girls. The Ghost Girls are really good in this deck in particular, not just because they're some of the best rates for hand traps in Genesis, but also because, 1, they're level 3s, and to get into the Gold Pride engine, you use a rank 3, so you can just normal summon these to go into Chariot Carry in a pinch, but also because Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is a level 3 Psychic. That means that it is searchable in the Punk engine, you can search it off of Dragon Drive, but you can also special summon it off of Psychic Blaster, and you can go into Dragon Drive with it because Dragon Drive requires a Psychic Tuner. Same thing with like Psychic Blaster requires a Psychic Tuner and a non-tuner Psychic. But like Ghost Ogre actually fulfills that condition, so it's not a bad body to have. Ghost Spell is the one I've been least impressed with, but it's here because it stops DD Crows, which we're not super graveyard heavy, but we do want the Reborn off of Deer Note to resolve. It doesn't normally end our turn if it doesn't, but it does like cut us off of resources. So we don't mind hitting a DD Crow, and then it also can just hit the opponent's graveyard effects themselves. So this gives us a reasonable number of hand traps to draw into, considering the fact that we are drawing 3 or 4 cards a turn on the back of Extreme Session, Jam Fever, Better Luck Next Time. Just all this card draw that is part of our core combo is so good in this deck. That's why we want to play hand traps. But yeah, so that's the build. The last thing I'll mention is if you are unaware of what Gold Pride is trying to do, the whole idea here is these guys are actually a pretty solid engine, but only in a deck that can consistently lose life points, and like a lot of them, and there's not many decks that can do that. There's like Dinomorphia, but they lock you, so you can't really do that. So these guys only see play with Punk, basically, because Punk loses a bunch of life as it does its combo, which fulfills the condition on all of the Gold Prides to be able to special summon from hand as long as you have less life than your opponents. So that makes them solid extenders in the case of like Leon, who is a level 3 tuner, Carrie, who is a level 3 non-tuner. Those are both solid to have, and Rollerballer is a level 5 non-tuner and a psychic, importantly. So we can make our 8s with him as an extender if we like get interrupted getting to Deer Note somehow. So they're pretty good extension, but they also add a lot to the end board, because their whole point is you get to this end board piece, Gold Pride, start your engines, which reveals 3 similar to how Monarchs do. Gold Pride monsters from deck, randomly get one, special summon it, and then pop a monster that your opponent just normal or special summoned. So that's a disruption on top of getting a body. Well, the body you're trying to get is Leon. Leon can then quick synchro with the Captain Carry that is normally left on your board as part of the end board. That gets you to a 6, which is Star Leon, which is another destruction, and along the way you're getting to Rollerballer, who can fuse into Pinballer, which can attach, well, not attach because it's not an Xyz, but equip the opponent's monsters to itself equal to the number of materials. So if you're using the Rollerballer itself plus Star Leon, you get to non-targeting, non-negatable equip 2 of the opponent's monsters. So that just gives you 4 disruptions coming out of the Gold Pride engine, and it's a relatively small and easily accessible engine in Punk that bumps up that end board quite a bit. And so with that, that's the build largely explained. Let's go see the basic combo and some games. Alright, so for our only combo, it's just going to be the 1 card off of the Punk engine. This can be either Zeoman, Ogre Dance, or Foxy Tune. Ogre Dance is just the only one that doesn't require a discard, so it's the simplest one to show you. So we're going to start by discarding the Ogre Dance, I lied there, to go get Zeoman. Then we're going to normal summon the Zeoman and use its effect to go get Rising Scale. We can then summon the Rising Scale by banishing the Ogre Dance that we've already discarded, summon out Shirakusai off of the Rising Scale's effect, then fuse into Rising Carp, break apart into Wagon and Deer Note, use Wagon to go search our Extreme Session, activate that before continuing so we can start to draw cards. I don't think I mentioned it, but this draws cards up to twice a turn when you pay life for a Psychic's effect, so that's 2 of our 3 to 4 card draws that we're going to do. Then we get this big chain that's like emblemic of Punk, where Deer Note brings back a card. Here I'm getting Wagon, it's just important you get a 3, doesn't really matter which. And Dragon Drive is going to pay 600 to go search something, so that's going to be Madam Spider here. That's going to be our first draw off our field spell. Then we can overlay 2 for our Punk Jam Fever, which is a monster negate and destroy that can also detach to pay life to draw a card. But first we're going to use the other effect of our field spell to banish a card from grave. Here's Zeoman to summon out the Madam Spider that we searched, and then we can use her effect to go get Dangerous Gabu, our trap. You can play either this or Nashawari Surprise. I go back and forth between which one I like more. This one's an Imperm, the other one's a Pop. That's going to draw us our second card off the field spell, so we're +2 already. Then we can draw a third card off of Jam Fever because we haven't needed to use its effect to negate. Then we can use our 2 3s on board to go into Chariot Carry, and then search the Better Luck Next Time, which also, because we have less life than our opponent, Carry can dump Rollerballer into the grave. Then we can activate Better Luck next time to search Captain Carry. We can special summon out the Captain Carry because we have less life than the opponent, and go search Start Your Engines. Start Your Engines targets an opponent's monster when they normal or special summon to reveal 3 Gold Pride monsters from deck, randomly summon one, and then destroy the targeted monster. The reason that we dump Rollerballer is we want to search 3 Gold Pride Leons, because if we summon him out, then he has an effect on summon to summon out a Gold Pride from the grave, so we can bring back the Rollerballer anyways, and we just have an extra material to work with. The Leon can then use the carry and himself to quick sync into Star Leon on the opponent's turn for another destruction before using it as material for Pinballer. So just a lot of big layered disruption here, and on end phase, any of the Gold Pride extra deck monsters that have used their effect return to the extra deck to summon out the main deck version. Unfortunately, because we're only playing one carry, we can't summon out a carry. We don't really need the second one here anyways, that's okay. And that does trigger Better Luck next time's other effect to just draw us a free card. So this doesn't look terribly impressive, but right off the bat, we've got a Negate, which is basically an Imperm off Dangerous Gabu. That's okay. We've got Negate and Destroy of a monster effect off Jam Fever, which is much better. And then we've got Start Your Engines to destroy a card, summon out Leon, summon out the Rollerballer. Leon goes into Star Leon for another destroy. Then Rollerballer fuses with the Star Leon into Pinballer for 2 sucks. All in all, this is 6 disruptions, and we are +3 from where we started. Just crazy deck. I love this deck so very much. It's so good. Alright, game 1 up against Odion. I'm going to make an absolute fool out of myself with a couple of mistakes here, but that's okay. It ended up being a pretty good game anyways, so I wanted to show it. So right off the bat, we're going first, and they are going to throw a Peruli at us, which really sucks because this deck really likes to summon from hand. But we're going to make it work. We go Foxy Tune to summon out Zeoman. Zeoman add Rising Scale. We have to give them at least one to get the Deer Note out. There's no other way to. So we give them the Deer Note. They get 1 for 1. It's not a big deal. We search up the Ghost Ogre. So now we have 2 hand traps we're sitting on. And we can still get out Madam Spider without giving them an extra draw by summoning it off of the Rising Scale. We draw a whole bunch of cards, so we have plenty of follow-up for next turn. We search up the Dangerous Gabu, and unfortunately we can't do Gold Pride stuff without giving them a bunch of extra draws, so we're just not going to this turn. But still, 2 hand traps, Imperm, Negate and Destroy, board wipe. We've got 5 disruptions. Hopefully it's good enough into a 6-card hand. They start Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Okay, that's fine. Well, they pitch for Man with the Mark. I guess they have Man with the Mark. They normal summon it, and we're going to negate that, hoping it keeps them off of Temple, but of course not. They have the treasures. Why does it never do that when I'm playing Odion? I never have both in the same hand. Okay, well that sucks. So here's primary mistake number 1. I do not Ghost Ogre the Treasures of the Kings. I really should have. For some reason, I was thinking I could hit the Apophis the Serpent, but guys, if you are unaware, as I clearly was at this time, Ghost Ogre can only activate if the card was already face up and then activated its effect, not just if it was on field and then activated its effect, which is what I was thinking it was for some reason. So we mess up, we let them get to Circuit. Okay, whatever, they summon out the Circuit. And then I do stop this one because it stops them from getting to Temple of the Kings, which stops the worst of the bleeding here. But 3 back row is still kind of scary, especially with this Lord of the Heavenly Prison around. But thankfully, without the Temple, whatever they set off of it is not immediately live. Okay, goes to our turn. They start doing Apophis things. They've got at least Swamp Deity out. They set a Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. People are really hard up for Floodgates nowadays, aren't they? I would just be playing Macrocosmos in that spot, but whatever. So we draw a Leon, not the absolute best in this situation, especially because, again, I made poor use of our hand traps, and the Ghost Bells are really, really bad in this matchup, unfortunately. But we'll see what we can do. We've got big guys. I can immediately turn Jura to attack and pitch the Ogre Dance to go get a Zeoman. I banish an Ogre Dance to summon the Zeoman, which baits out a 2 negate Apophis, which is fine because the Jura's not doing anything on our turn besides giving us life, and honestly at this point I don't want the life, I want to go on a Pep. But, thankfully, because we baited them, the Dragon Drive triggers to summon itself back when the opponent responds to your Punk effect activation. So it summons itself back, it searches us follow-up, which is cool because they negate that and a bunch of other stuff. And at this point, it's fine, because we had 2-3, so we can go into the Gold Pride engine, make the Rollerballers suck up all of their worst offenders, get over the rest of them, hit them for a bunch of damage, but we don't really have any disruptions. We've got the Ghost Ogre exactly. I popped their back row with Jura because when they flip the Grave, it goes offline anyway, so I figure I might as well. Of course, they have the extra Treasures of the Kings in hand. This time I don't make the same mistake and I pop it. And, you know, that's the only thing we had that mattered, so they're gonna get to go off a little bit, but thankfully they've used some resources, and we've got stuff in hand and on field, so they're gonna break our board, and the Ghost Bells are still largely useless in this matchup, but we only have to do 1,500 damage. That's not terribly difficult when they have 1,000 attack monster in attack position on their field. So we summon Rising Scale, we go to use its effect to summon from deck, and they negate it, which triggers our Dragon Drive again to come back and fetch us another 3. Dragon Drive is a really good card. And at this point we go into Pep, and I don't know if they... Well, yeah, they must have known it. At this point, the board state simplified. It's not that hard to keep track of exactly what they have. They have no hand. This last card was another copy of Swamp Deity that they cannot summon because their board is full. They already used the Apophis for pop. They've got nothing in the grave. So Pep just, like, gets over Odion and takes care of this. And even if he didn't, we now have the Gold Pride stuff online. We have more follow-up still, which is a nice feature of this build of the deck. And maybe Ghost Bell will do something in this matchup at some point. Cool, cool. Alright, and then our last game is a really fun one where we're going second up against Lightsworn, and I have to get it started quick because this is going to be a long one. So, the biggest point of contention here is going to be this Ghost Ogre in hand. You see, there's no good point to throw it out against this deck. I could have possibly just hit them early to try and keep them off of something. I could have hit like the Chaos Ruler that comes back. Really, there's just not a great place, and unfortunately they go into a light dark Chaos Angel, which is a sticking point for Punk Gold Pride because we don't have a lot of spell trap answers to that. Like, this board represents one double negate, which they pop off almost immediately to stop us from drawing cards. Doesn't stop us from playing, but we're kind of spinning our wheels. We don't really have access to a good answer to the Chaos Angel. While they're doing nothing else, sometimes an indestructible board that's unaffected by monster effects is enough to do it. But we're going to do what we can. Gabu here is the important card. We need to Gabu the Chaos Angel, or we basically just lose on the spot if we can't do that. I make Pep, which was incorrect because we saw them hit Santa Claus off of Chaos Ruler. I just forgot about it. They immediately Santa Claus are Pep. Okay, that kind of sucks, because Pep was another out if we could just, you know, swing over their attack position guys in battle if they forgot to put them in defense position. We'll do what we can. Their board's pretty cloggy at this point because they're already established and they're just hoping this is good enough, but we can grind, and we have, again, the Gabu, which is the important card, and it survives back to our turn. So here, I'm hoping to kill them this turn. Like, that's really all we can do. They have no disruptions. We get to do whatever we want. And here, my board consists of Draco Berserker, because Draco Berserker is another out if they leave stuff in attack position and we don't manage to pull off what we're about to do. It just gets bigger and bigger every time it wins in battle. So we have a giant guy similar to Pep. This one is just affected, but it also represents a banish in case they have follow-up. Wolf Riot, similar vein. I'm not really looking to shuffle their board back in. I just want it to get to 4,000 attack and be a really big guy. And Amazing Dragon, I just needed to go through for the combo to make the Wolf Riot, because funny enough, Santa Claus is a 6, which means we can make our 9s quite easily with him on board. So, the Gabu sticks, they don't have anything, so we managed to take out the Chaos Angel lock, and they're definitely not playing a second Chaos Angel, because they're 40 or 20 points apiece, and they are paying 50 for fucking Chaos Ruler. So, like, surely the rest of their points aren't a second Chaos Angel. They instead go into the other Minerva, the Xyz one, which we have Ghost Mourner for, so we don't care about that. And then they try to use the Fiendsmith engine that they hit. I'm not sure what they're trying to go into off of Fiendsmith. They didn't really use it last turn, but I just banish it. I don't feel like dealing with it. They managed to take care of everything else on our board. Whoa, what the hell was that? Cool, so I just learned that you can click on the opponent's portrait to see their hand and know knowledge for them, so that's really neat, and I didn't know that. But they managed to clear out... What's going on over here? They managed to clear out the rest of our board, and we just have Draco Berserker, so we can just go to battle and walk over them for lethal. Well over lethal. And we had follow-up even past that point. Our extra deck still had some stuff we could do. We still had Jura available. I had hoped to get to Psychic Blaster to bring back this Carp to make one of our punks attack twice. Didn't end up working out that way this turn, but, you know, maybe we could do that in the future. We could keep going, and that's, you know, this particular build of Punk, because we have a lot of redundant pieces that are only necessary as a one-of for combos. Yeah, we can just do the combo multiple times, and it's great. And so yeah, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Let's go over to our opponent's side for the closing thoughts. Yeah, you know, Punk Gold Pride was quote-unquote meta for about a month. And in Genesys, where the bulk of the most powerful decks are slapped to the ground, it has a chance to shine for a lot longer here. Despite not being definitely the best deck, it is quite good, and I'm happy to see my punks playable, even without E-Telly, unfortunately. So that'll do it for this one, guys, and I hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.